just the facts, Larry. 215 total yards, their fewest in a game under Kyle Shanahan. The fifth time that they've been held under 250 yards since Shanahan arrived. 215, though, yesterday. And the Niners are 0-5 in those games. So, you got to do something offensively to have a shot in this league, especially against a defense like that on a day that was built to slow you down with the weather, with some officiating calls, which we're not going to make the focus of this show blown calls, because the Niners are a team that is built to control their own destiny this year. They did not control their own destiny in that game. We got some decisions to talk about, but Larry, it was a terrible offensive afternoon for an offense that hadn't even approached the concept of an even off offensive afternoon at any game that we've seen this year. Like, they were that bad, and a combination of Cleveland being that good was just something they did not overcome.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Kyle Shanahan struggles against this defensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz is
there's something about Coach Ownage, man. There really is.
9-1. 9-1 is what Schwartz is against Shanahan. So, and there were several issues with the offense. One, Purdy was not great. In the first half, he bounced the ball to Ray McCloud. He overthrew CMC, struggled with two wet ball plays. One was a poor throw to Kittle that was off target. The other fell off of his hand mid-throw. And then you go to the second half, Purdy also had three poor passes. He had the tip ball by JOK. He had the ball that was behind Ayuk that was intercepted by Emerson. And then he had a ball that was very late in the game that was almost picked by Newsome. So Purdy struggled, but not nearly as much as people are going to rake him today for. Ayuk and Debo combined for 4 drops. That was a huge part of this. And then go to George Kittle. He was a total non-factor in the passing game. Then you mix in injuries to CMC and Debo and Trent. That was clearly felt. I kind of felt like Kyle Shanahan, it's 20/20 hindsight, but he probably should have run more plays. They were going up against the number 1 passing D. And the Browns are good against the run, but they're great against the pass. And to me, they should have run it a little bit more. And I think they should have used Mason a little bit more. I mean, Mason is a big power back. I think they should have used him more, especially once McCaffrey went down. And then you mix in the 2 angles that nobody will talk about today. It felt like the Niners suffered a little emotional letdown after their victory over Dallas. And then the Browns had what the Bengals are going to have in a few weeks, which is a major rest advantage. They looked fresher, and they looked like the better prepared team.
Well, not on that first drive, though. I mean, no, Kyle comes out and he dials up 6 right away again. I mean, to me, Larry, there were a lot of moments that could have been winning moments in this game for the 49ers. And as bad as they were, as tilted as the officiating felt, certainly in the scope of just 2 plays that I know that we're going to talk about today a little bit later on, it was a day where everything that mostly could go wrong went wrong for the 49ers on the road in bad weather against the best defense in football. And they're still lining up for a game-winning kick. Like, as bad as everything was, they still had a chance to win that game. Moody, obviously, 2 crucial misses. It's easy to focus on the final miss, the last kick of the game, as this is where the 49ers lost. But there's all sorts of little moments in that game where the 49ers could really could have taken control. And they didn't do it, Larry. To me, the single biggest play of this game, the single biggest failure of this game for the 49ers was not getting off the field on 4th down. It is 4th and 4 with about 6:52 left to play in the game. And you even got a cutaway shot of Steve Wilks saying, damn it, because he knew that was a big one. That was the biggest play of the game, and the Niners defense didn't get off the field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Niner defense, struggled without Dre Greenlaw. There's no question. Greenlaw has played at a really, really high level this year. They didn't have him. I thought their tackling against really two or three different players was really sloppy. They didn't corral Ford. They didn't corral Hunt. They didn't corral the tight end Joku, ex-Niner Marquise Goodwin. The tackling was shoddy. It really was. And that I thought that was a major part of this as well. They didn't tackle that well. The Niner D line on paper should have absolutely dominated the Browns O line on paper, and it just didn't happen. So the Browns were without their Pro Bowl guard Joel Bitonio. The center was dinged up. Neither tackle was playing all that great, and yet the 49ers only got 2 hits on the quarterback all day. Only 2 sacks of the quarterback all day.
I mean, it was a day that left a lot of fans scratching their head going, what the hell did I just watch? And it doesn't make sense based on everything I had watched coming into this game from the 49ers to this point. So a disappointing afternoon for sure. Finger pointing is the name of the game on a Monday after the loss. And you and I'm sure, got some fingers to point at a few moments, a few plays as to what happened. But, as cliche as it is, Larry, it's on to Minnesota. I mean, the goal of this year was not to beat the Cleveland Browns in week 6. The goal of this year is to be a Super Bowl champion. That goal has not been deterred. They haven't even been bounced out of the 1 seed because guess who else lost on the road to a backup quarterback yesterday? The Philadelphia Eagles. So at least the league continued to break around the Niners in a way that was beneficial to them. There's been a lot of that so far. But, a team that is good enough to control its own destiny lost control of a football game. They never really, it looked like they had it early on, but I thought another devastating moment. It didn't feel devastating in real time. It was bad in real time, but it didn't feel like, man, that's going to be a real difference this afternoon. Was right after the Fred Warner interception, they're starting a drive on the Cleveland 26-yard line. Larry, they came away with 0 points from the Cleveland 26. And had it gone 10-0 or 14-0, I think the entire game just feels much differently. And the sadness factory starts to produce, that here we go again, that every single Cleveland Browns fan and player and coach knows all too well. If they're down at home 14-0, I just think the entire game plays out much differently.
Yeah, for sure. To me, it was a combination of factors where you had, you lost some of your key weapons. You're going up against the number 1 defense on the road. They are way more rested than you. You're in an emotional letdown window. You weren't particularly sharp, against them in any phase, really. Your quarterback wasn't sharp. You didn't tackle well. Then you mix in 2 missed kicks. That hurt. Don't forget about the horrendous game-altering penalties. It's not excuses. It's what happened. It's they just kind of ran out of options. I mean, and all this, and they wound up losing by a couple points. So, the Browns. Some people think the Browns are a Super Bowl team. Some people think the Browns are really special. I don't, but they did enough to win the game.
Maybe the fully intact Cleveland Browns might have been that. Maybe their cream would have risen to the top of the AFC somehow, some way. The Buffalo Bills last night kind of looked like false prophets. The Jets, obviously, big win yesterday, but they're not going to ever realize their potential with their quarterbacking situation. Deshaun Watson not being able to go, Nick Chubb being hurt, absolutely threw the Cleveland Browns off of their access a little bit. But that's a very good defense, and that defense beat the 49ers up front. Was not a good day for the 49ers offensive line.